Hello, everyone. Welcome you all for this webinar by Husys. My name is G.R. Reddy. I started Husys in the year 2002, and formally we have formed a company in 2005 as a private limited entity. And we are the first, HR listed company in India, and been working with the MSMEs in the country for more than 17 years now. So I would like you to take the inputs today as a guidance, and then build your own appreciation about what the kind of business that you want to do, how you want to really do the business in the future. However, since we have a very wide variety of participants today, from HR, from the non-HR, and also from the business side itself, so I will be focusing more on making sure that some of the basics are covered all the time, uh, so that every one of us are on the same page. So please do allow me to touch upon some of the basic framework. If I'm actually touching some of the very basic regular HR kind of inputs. However, I would encourage you to ask for questions. There's an option for you to ask a question, or maybe you can write it on the chat itself. So I'll be happy to answer to all the questions. In case if I'm not able to answer to any of those questions, I will make sure that I make a note and then also write back to you at the end of the webinar. So we're going to spend about next 1.5 hour, 90 minutes on really understanding how the HR landscape in terms of the businesses that are done, and how these are going to transform in the future. And one of the very important things that I would like to really share here, why we are actually doing it here, is that we have seen a 17 years long stint in terms of the ups and downs of the human resources business in the country. So we thought, it is essential for us to share. You will realize as I'm actually moving into the presentation, why I'm actually saying that, why we are actually here to help you to share more and more that what we have done, probably some of the things that we haven't done, but which could be of great inputs for you. So let me move on with my presentation. So I said the emerging HR business models here in this case, because not just only the earlier existing businesses were there in the country for many years, but however, the sustainability of the HR companies are getting very difficult. People do start and then end their businesses, and I think that is not something that we don't want to really see in our careers, especially the kind of a country that we are in India. So I would like you to just look at that, whatever I'm actually sharing, probably take it as an input, and then you may ask some of the questions that you have. I'm sure I'll not be able to answer the questions that you have in your mind unless you ask. Uh, I will go monologue as long as, if you don't ask a question. But we try to kind of ensure that we capture most of the information which is very, very useful to you in your journey of entrepreneurship. So there you go. Husys has been in the business for more than 17 years. However, our establishment as a Husys Private Limited, even though I started as a Husys as a proprietary company in 2002, but 2005 is the 2005 where we actually formed a private limited entity. And in 2007, we started the AMS, we call it as an Associate Management Service or Professional Employer Organization Service. So I'll spend a little time during the course. And we help a lot of international companies to establish in India as a part of this service. And very happy that we are the first company ever listed on the national stock exchanges. And we chose the NSE Emerge as a platform. As you may be aware that NSE Emerge platform is a platform like a share trading platform, where you can list your company, but these are all for the small and mid-sized enterprises. The economy is dependent on the growth of small and mid-sized enterprises, and it is important for providing finance to the small mid-sized enterprises was one of the very biggest challenge, who are contributing to a greater GDP growth for the country. And that's when the government had decided to come up with a small exchange, BSE SME exchange and NSE emerged platform. And I'm also happy to say that the new startup platform also has come up now. So the startup platform really talks about even a smallest point you are a startup, you can actually be able to list on the platform. So I think government is making every effort to make sure that the Indian small startup and the small mid-sized enterprises have enough strength to actually be able to deliver better services and goods and also add to the GDP of our economy. So 2016, we just finished 3 years in September that we were on the NSE platform and being the first HR company listed. Over a period of time, more than 1,700 and companies that we served, where we managed the HR departments for these organizations. And over a lakh of people have been managed over a period of time in terms of their, issuing an appointment letter or managing a grievance or hiring them, multiple services. We touched more number of people through these 1,700 plus organizations. Husys also was one of the first one to initiate the cloud-based HR platform very early, even before the demonetization and when the bandwidths were not really uh, really strong in the country. However, this product is purely for the MSME markets, who actually would like to take a leverage of HR as a key differentiator for any MSME. Let me tell you my journey over 17 years. When we started in 2002 to 2005, literally we had to tell them what is HR, especially the small mid-sized enterprises. And we did a lot of education over a period of time to many of the CEOs that why they should have HR as a key success formula for their business. Today, I'm very happy that today we don't need to really talk about why HR is important. Everybody talks about people. I think that is the reason that why I'm actually doing today this webinar, to help you understand the kind of a scope and the opportunity that is really growing up in this country like never before. It could be a $1 billion opportunity, but it needs the guts and the ability and the interest of people like you who are on this webinar to be able to take the advantage of this growth of importance for people. I think that's where the whole Indian economy is changing. The greatest employment is going to be in the MSME sector going forward. And we also have done our ISO 9001 2015 certification in 2018. We waited very long. We didn't want to do the ISO certification only for the sake of it. It's truly a tool to help us to improve our services to our clients, and that's how we looked at. And also, I'm very happy that we just launched this year the first ever nationwide survey on MSMEs. You won't find much of the data about human resources and what is their outlook, of human resources from the small mid-sized enterprises. And we made this attempt with Professor Biju Worki from IIM Ahmedabad and also Professor Niharika from BJIM Hyderabad. These are the two people who helped us to build the entire questionnaire, which has got 70 questions, which it covered. And we covered about 500 organizations across the country from a very different industries, just to get a sense of what's happening. And please do track us on our website. So soon we'll be actually releasing the entire full-fledged report. But however, when you go to our website today, you can actually download a miniature version and a small version, 4-page version of the surveys available for you. So I would like to thank you all for being again on this webinar. And then I would like to move forward in terms of talking about the model that I have been wanting to promote and let more number of people are aware of this opportunity. Uh, this is the market size. So if you actually look at it, um, the startup and micro. So typically, we have kind of differentiated these markets based on our understanding and our focus, and especially from a HR perspective, I think it's important that irrespective of the turnover, it is a question of how many people that the organizations hold. So primarily we have kind of categorized four segments of people side of the business and also the revenue side of the business. If you see the small mid size, small is always referred as small, and micro is about 1 to 20 people. The reason why we actually categorized here is that you have typically the most of the statutory compliances comes when you're actually 20 size as an organization. Hence that's how the distinction that we have taken. There is no scientific reason beyond this, but however the small could be from 220 to 250 people, and medium sized organizations are always referred as 250 to 1000 people, and the large organizations, when you look at from a people point of view, the complexity point of view, you can always take it as 1000 plus 1000 plus people in the organization. And if you see most of them, less than 1000, if you see, there are 66 million MSMEs. I think that's the biggest market that you can ever see, and probably it is the biggest in terms of the number of companies that are existing uh, compared to any elsewhere in the world. And also more than 140 million people are employed in these 66 million MSMEs. Uh, so if you really look at as you go down, in the chart of the medium or a small or a startup, the opportunity for HR is very minimal. Hence, we clearly say, if you really have to say that the entire opportunity is in the bottom of the pyramid, you know. Uh, that is where I think there is a huge opportunity. Whoever is on this webinar today and whoever is going to be reviewing this webinar in the future, I think this is the size, this is the bottom of the pyramid that we talk about is the opportunity that is existing as on today. So please do take the advantage of understanding more and more about this market. You can go to the MSME ministry. Now we have an MSME ministry in the country, and please do refer to the last report of how MSMEs are contributing to the business, how much export that they're actually contributing to the business. I think that will give you a lot more insights into the market and the size. And I'm sure you will be lured by the kind of sheer size that is existing in this country. And also the business owners are more and more focused on having HR as a partner. Okay, so just take the advantage of looking at this market size as an opportunity. So I'm actually going to talk about a few things here. Typically, based on our experience, we kind of bucketed the services in three different segments. If you see, the first segment is one-time fee-based kind of a business model, where we deliver only one time and then it's over. That's the relationship with the client, and also a recurring fee-based HR businesses, which also has seen a very good growth. And then some of the most sustainable businesses in the country or elsewhere in the world are definitely those who have a recurring fee-based income. I think they are the ones who are sustaining, into the future. And the most important and the bottom of the pyramid opportunity, which I would like to really stress here, while one time and the recurring may be known to many of them, but I think the way that you use the one time and the recurring and create a subscription based organization, I think that is what is going to give you a lot more opportunity to be able to sustain. I think that's what I'm going to talk about today. That's what I'm going to say, that if your pyramid is currently ORS, if your one-time recurring is there, and then, how do you build the subscription model? And it's like reversing the pyramid, that's what we are talking about. And I will share with you what these are for your information. I'm sure each one of these has lots of opportunity for you to explore into the future. Before you start, I think one of the very important thing that I would like to really start is if you're already are into a business, I think you really understand what I'm meaning. But if you're not in the business and you're going to start on your own, I think these are very, very fundamentally that you need to be very, very aware of. The first thing that when you really want to start is never start as though you're going to say, if this doesn't work, I'm going to go back. This will never lead you anywhere. So my sincere advice, friends, is to make sure that when you want to start, you start, but you persistence is the very key. Perseverance is the key for the future. I was talking to a friend the other day who's about 15 years, in the industry. So what we were just talking about, on an airport when we met, even though we could not get time to meet for so long. Then he said, I think, why are we successful? The only answer between both of us is because we stuck to our positions. We stuck to our positions, and really, we really discovered what can be done to be able to sustain. So, how can you really? So that's, I think, is very, very fundamental question that you need to answer. If you're going to come with, if this doesn't work, let me just go back. No way. Please make sure that, I think that is one of the very important thing. And when you start, forget your position in the business, or in the job, or wherever you are. You may be a king in your current position or current status or whatever it is, but when you actually start your own business, I think you need to start from zero, and make sure that 3 to 4 months of backup to run your uh, home, I think, is very important. And if you have any EMIs or something like, please make sure that you kind of reduce it as much as possible, and keep some reserves. If you're planning for a long term, at least make that attempt to do it. And one thing that you will realize is you always start at zero. This is very, very important. You always start with being zero as a value. What I mean to say is that when you go to a client for the first time, you will always be looked at, now prove me every rupee. I have noticed many of them who start the business, and then they really end up and saying that, hey boss, I was actually earning so much, so I divided by my time, and this is what my cost is for you. And the client would say, okay, why should even I pay you 1 rupee? I think be there to take that question. Be there with the humility. Just stand there and say that, okay, why you are going to create a value to them. If you really feel that it is hurting you, probably then I think you will not move anywhere. So just be careful about starting at zero, and then start making every 1 rupee count when they actually reach out to you, or when you are reaching out to them and you're providing the services. The other most important I would like to really ask you to look at is also decide yourself in terms of what do you want to be a loner, or do you want to be an organization builder? So both are possible. Both have their own plus and minuses. I think deciding that whether you want to be self-driven and I'm the only one whom I'm going to work as long as I have ability, or I'm going to build an organization which will continue after my retirement, or after I end the business, or maybe or I retire. Either retire is could be one of the option. Just a second, my system just got choked. Okay, yeah. I'm okay right now. So main important is decide yourself whether you want to be a self or you want to build an organization. If you want to build an organization, you need to build teams. You need to invest in people, not in yourself. The best part in self is that you start immediately and you start earning, so you start enjoying, and then you don't want to invest on people. But the long journey is that you cannot go forward much longer, or maybe when you want to retire, you're not going to create a wealth by actually being a self designer. But if you are looking at an organizational building as a focus, I'm sure you will be able to definitely um, make a difference. Create focus. Your focus must be on creating the wealth eventually. Whether you are working or not working, I think your organization working. The equity that you hold in the company is your wealth in the future. I think that should be more than the salaries that we earn anytime if you start any organization. And also most of the times that we find that the people who's known to us while we are working, they give you a lot of respect and all that, but the moment you are on your own, just make sure that they're going to say that, hey, can you call back? Probably the same person would have picked up every time you call them. So I think that's one of the very important thing. Most of the times people get very jittery about is it uh, I know this guy, but he's acting smart. Okay, so just make sure that you don't get into that kind of a trap, which is very very important. Which is very, I mean, that is why I'm actually highlighting this at this point of a time. Okay, and also as I said, never start your business thinking that your network is going to give you the business. Many people say that, okay, yeah, I think you should start, why don't you start off and all that. Yeah, getting a business seems very easy, but I think just depending on and starting a business based on what you're just networking will not help you. It will help you into your first 1 or 2 months, but I think you must start networking much beyond what you have done it today. Only then I think your business would be more sustainable into the future. The other most important is you have to keep selling. There is nothing that you do as an entrepreneur. You have to constantly keep selling. You have to sell, sell, sell. There is nothing else. If you think that you are an HR person and I can't do sales, I think it's not your job. Then you can't really build an organization. Sorry. So it's very important that you need to be a salesperson. It's not necessary that you are a sales background or something. What I noticed is that if you are an entrepreneur, you get that passion, in you, and that's enough. That actually is a killer sales instinct that you need to go and meet people and convince them what you are trying to do. So that's another important aspect. The next most important aspect is the network, which is very important, that you need to build your network, which is actually sustainable for the future. So essentially that's your net worth. When you create your huge network, that will create a net worth. Let me tell you an examples of whenever I network, I don't network for a purpose. I network for a very genuine reason of being in touch with people, because you never know they're going to be your brand ambassador. They're going to be really understanding your business and then go back and talk to somebody, rather than you directly selling somebody. If somebody puts in your name saying that, hey, go and approach this guy, he's actually into this business, he'll be able to help, I think your 50% sales job is done. So you have to trade out between a typical core sales when you're interacting versus the network, of being able to create an awareness about your business, and also the person's top of the mind recall. So I think that's where the network is all about. It doesn't convert into sales. I can tell you that even my colleagues at Husys also can guarantee you that there are some networks whom we have been in touch with people for more than 8 9 years, and we get a business which is unbelievable at a point of time when we need it the most. So I think it's got a lot of surprises, it's got a lot of opportunity for a long-term sustainability. Please do not neglect uh, creating your network and meeting your network on a constant basis without expecting anything, right? And the always the mantra is start small and grow. don't try to invest too much of money or efforts or whatever it is. Try and find all the alternatives which can prevent you from a lesser investment to a higher investment into the future while you are earning. That's very, very important. And one of the most important, which I can always say, that collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. There is nothing beats collaboration. Collaboration is the key for our success. If you don't collaborate, then I think you will be a loner, uh, which means that you will never be able to uh, go beyond your capability or your network or your boundary. Collaboration is going to actually increase the boundary much further, to the horizons that you can see, and it's very, very important. Then finally, I would like to really say that what I noticed in my 17, 18 years of experience is that you don't need to be an HR person to do the HR business. So we always say we are in the HR business, and incidentally we do HR, but we do make sense for business. I think that's the one of the fundamental aspect that you need to understand when we are looking at. So these are some of the very basics before you start, so that you focus on the core of the business, on the idea that you're going to work on. So let me move on to the next set of uh, uh, inputs for you. I'll be uh, I'll be focusing on the actual ORS one time. How we are going to really look at. Okay, so one time opportunity is typically, most of the people know, it's a very high revenue zone, paid on a project delivery basis, and sometimes pre and post. When you start the work, somebody pays in advance, and when you actually do a deliverables, they do, or sometimes based on the delivery patterns that. So that's the typical focus of a one-time assignment, which is a high-end, high-revenue yield products that you focus. And primarily the large, mid-size to small. I think it's in that order that you end up actually working. And what it requires is a strong capacity coupled with the network and the reference. So it's a question of how much is the capability that you have, and how much is the capability that you can collaborate. I think that's where it's going to be very, very critical in terms of attracting the market, which is into large, mid, and small. So I think it's in that order of one-time opportunities that can come in. And how does one-time opportunities that will focus is that what wins is that, how do you present that value? Because you're asking for more money for a shorter duration of time for any company. That means hence they should be able to see the perceived value of the return on investment. And typically these sales cycles, I'll talk about the products especially, but this sales cycle maybe one day sometimes, because you know somebody when you start off, and then they say that, hey, I'm going to start off with you. It may be one day that you send a proposal and you accept the proposal, and that could be a sales cycle. But it also can end up into up to 90 days in some cases, and anything goes beyond 90 days, I think by then you should have actually focused on more and more pipeline as such. And these are the ticket sizes are typically, when you look at the smaller companies, maybe up to 50,000 rupees as the typical size of the ticket size of the business, and any mid-size organization could be 1.5 lakhs onwards. And third, with the large enterprises, maybe it can go beyond certain points. And what is critical is actually in this business is to make sure that you always have your extreme good pipeline constantly, because what happens is when you do a one-time business, you need to have more leads, more opportunities, more proposals flowing in to ensure that there is a continuity. Otherwise, typically we will find somebody who does a typical project-based assignments. They finish one project and then they start searching for another project, which is actually very difficult for you to go ahead and work. So here in this case, what kind of a teams that you can have? You can have a gigs, who are like a temporary workers who will work for you just for the project cycle. Somebody who's expert in that area. You don't have to be an expert in that area, but you can actually hire somebody for a shorter duration as a gig to do it. Or maybe sometimes you can also have your people on your roles, depending on the kind of capacity that you have. And also, especially in the one-time kind of a projects, most of the times, the ratio of on roles to off roles is 50% typically, which will help you. Otherwise, you'll be actually raising money unnecessarily, which is actually is not so important. You will spend a lot of money, otherwise being a fixed cost. You need to have a lesser cost that you need to work on. Let me just see, there's somebody who raised a hand, and I would like to just see if there is any question that you wanted to ask. Please do write on in the chat, or maybe you have an option to write a question. You please write your question, so probably I'll be able to read out and then answer to you as we go on. So these are some of the standard one-time existing for ever since that we have seen HR business in the country. So the consulting engagements in the HR space, where these are project driven, starts specific timelines, start to an end, which could be more on organizational design or some policy definition or performance design and execution, or some kind of an engagement service. So it is more like a need-based environment, need-based organizational needs, that you will go and you have an expertise, or maybe you will bring an expertise to solve certain issue. And these are typically 3 to 6 months, you will be closed, or maybe sometimes 30 days, 45 days, very short duration. The start and end, and what deliverables that you will give it to them, and then you sign off at the end of the program. That's how the other most common business, which has got no entry barrier in this country, is recruiting. So you don't need to have an expertise, or you don't need to have any pre-qualification before you start getting into a recruitment business, because this is linked to the business requirements. And this is something, if the business says that I need these many number of people, would you be able to help me? And I think that's how it goes to this. And also it is also related to the closure of the position. So they give you a position and then close it. One very fundamental question that I would like to or maybe advise for each one of you is that most of the people have a myth, thinking that when I start recruiting business, and the company will come and say that, okay, I'm going to give you a recruitment assignment. So, and then the entrepreneurs jump as though that they just got the business. Let me tell you, that's not a business that what you do. Because what is here, if you notice that any of these assignments, my sincere advice is, if you are able to answer the question that who's investing first. So in this case, you will be investing the time and effort first. And many times that we see that in the recruitment area, that they start the company and then they go and ask somebody, they just give a requirement. The company is not investing anything. So I think one of the advice is to make sure that the effort that you're going to put in, please do ask that pay some advance, because you are actually putting your efforts before. If they're not willing to give you, I think rather not having is better than having the business there on the recruitment side. This could be just one hint for you, in case if you want to really exercise yourself to be sustainable. Most of the times we think that, okay, I just got a business, so hence I'm jumping around to the business has come in. No, it is not the business. Business has not come. So please make sure that you are definitely asking for an advance. Even in the consulting engagements, the most preferred way of doing it is either 50% or 25% that you actually charge before you start the engagement, mandatory. And then based on the deliverables that you can really focus on. Otherwise, it will be very, very tough. So by the time you finish your half of the program, you should have got your 25 to 50% of the money that you would have actually got it, because your efforts has already gone. You cannot pull it back. This is very, very important factor. I have a few questions from Srinivas Ganti. I will actually answer you uh, typically, and let me just complete some of these questions, and probably, from the retired defense Srinivas Garu, and what model, because I think you need to create a model based on what I'm explaining today. So probably go through some of them. I think since you all have general management exposure, you will be able to do anything. So that much I can tell you at this point of time. Uh, See, the other standard thing that you will find in the business is a need-based standard training program. This is something, the uh, the programs which are typically there. But however, you will find that many a times what we noticed in the MSME segment, the training is actually not so much, because the budgets are not allocated, or whatever. It's only the large organizations, where maybe you can go and design customized program and deliver it for them based on your experience. Or maybe when you start a business, you could probably provide a solution that may tailor make to that. And also there are a lot of companies, a lot of the business which is already existing is, you have a standard set of programs that you kind of offer it to many of the thing. I'm not considering anything related to skill gap of colleges and all that. I think that business I really don't want to really talk about here in this part. I'm only focusing on the corporates and the small startup who can actually benefit from the this kind of a model. uh, there is some questions, so maybe let me just read it before. I'm a retired defense professional with experience in logistics, supply chain, admin, procurement, and security. I'm just trying to bridge the gap for transition, especially for personnel below officer ranks. So I think, Srinivas Garu, it's if you have a certain access to a certain number of people, you look at which are the target segments who can actually take that experiments. Because see, one thing that you need to see is that the large companies driven by the policy and procedure. So you have to be fitting into their policy and procedures. The small and mid-sized enterprises are driven by the decision making of the employer. So probably you should really consider, where you really want to pitch in, the kind of market size that you're looking at, and how you can actually bridge that gap. Okay, so I think that's the way that I would answer to you at this point of time. You may get some more answers as we are going forward. Thank you so much for asking that question. I would like to move to another very interesting area, which I think is very, very popular nowadays. Um, uh, Let me just finish this and then ask you a question later. There is something called an outplacement. Uh, exactly what Srinivas Garu actually saying also is the same thing. He's trying to bridge a gap of people retiring from defense to going back to the industry. Let me tell you, the whole outplacement is a career transition model where you help the people who are moving from one company to outside world to explore another opportunity. So it could be based on, nowadays you'll see that a lot of retrenchment is happening. People are asked to leave, and I think that is where the whole opportunity. If you see, the recruitment is a business where the economy is growing, and people are really hiring. Your recruitment business model works. But if you do an outplacement model where you are charging the company, where the company provides an outplacement for people who've been asked to go. This is a model which is very prevalent across the globe, but not so much in India. But in India, most of the MNCs who have the counterparts, they do really follow. And this could be an individual level, because there are a lot more times that we get an opportunity. There's a retail model where people are with a lot of experience and then wanting to move to the next level. If you have a good understanding of a career management, career coaching, and also the external market understanding, industry understanding, you will be able to really do well in this particular segment. Corporates, basically, sometimes when the people ask them to leave, they actually hand it over to an outplacement agencies. So this can be done in association with two or three strong senior team members, or maybe the friends or a network. So probably you can actually offer this this service, which includes all the writing of a resume to how do you really focus on LinkedIn, how do you really make yourself presence in the entire market, is what is going to be the outplacement. And outplacement worldwide is like billions of dollars of revenue models, like how consulting and recruiting and training, these are a very standardized models. The first three are very, very standardized, known in the Indian markets, but I think outplacement is just seeing its place. We have been working since 2013 on this kind of a model, through our global partners, but I think we still have to see that it has been adapted well in the Indian conditions so far. Lalitendu and Ashutosh, do you have a question? You raised your hand, so maybe you can write in the chat, or write it in the question so that I'll be able to answer. So outplacement is the buzzword, and you'll find there are a few articles in the recent past. After this session is over, we will send you a link to about 20 pages information about how an outplacement works. So we will send you that link to you. Probably you can really read and understand how you can actually look at outplacement as a market. And as actually I think Srinivas Ganti was also saying that retired defense officers that he wants to take it, it's purely nothing but it's an outplacement. And the whole business has started 40 years back in the US, when the war veterans came back to the country, and then they have to be helped immersed into the business world, or normal day-to-day life. I think that is where the outplacement has come in. So please do try. So these are some of the very basics of one-time business models that are existing. Any questions that you may please ask us. So there are some war veterans is talking about. Yeah, outplacement. Ashutosh was asking, outplacement, is it is a replacement within current organization? No, it is that the organization has no longer requires the person to be in that role, and hence they kind of give them a retrenchment or a termination of the particular person. Then in that case, because they've been displaced by whatever the business needs, they will be able to be given certain support in terms of looking for a new job and opportunity. Typically, it's the same thing happens. What happens is, if you're asked to go, you start looking for your job. But however, there's a lot of trauma that one goes through. And hence, the outplacement agency will help them to understand their goals, etc., and then help them to progress into the next job. Hope that helps, Ashutosh. So here, Srinivas Garu, I think outplacement is actually picking up, as I was mentioning, that there is a huge opportunity that is growing up in the country now. People are aware of it. We have been trying to make a lot of attempt to educate all our HR heads about these things. So probably I think you will see some of the literature that we will share will be of great help to you. Thank you so much. So let me move on to a recurring based. Why is it recurring based? Just before I move on to this, I would like to just run a quick poll. Please do just answer to this. I would like to really take little polls to ensure that we get to see how much is your involvement today. We have about 53 people who are actually on the webinar today, and please do just click. It's only just a so I see that first time are you attempting an entrepreneurship. So we have 80% who are trying to do, and 13% who are already in the business. Thank you so much. I think you guys, those who are in the business, I know that you have come here to be able to see what else the models, because you need to survive. I really understand that. Thank you so much. There is 70% of the 72% are first time attempting entrepreneurship. So I understand that this is very important for you to be not making a mistake. So probably I think that will be the great opportunity. And there are 4% of people who actually have attempted earlier, but definitely, hopefully, some of these interactions, some of this information may be of use to you. But in case if you have attempted earlier, failed, doesn't matter. I think that's the greatest boon that one has. Now you know how not to repeat a mistake. So we'll be happy to kind of talk to you eventually. Once this webinar is over, our relationship will not end here. Definitely, you can reach us, and then we will be able to help you with that answers. Okay, so that's the results for you. 75% of the first time entrepreneurship attempt. I think thank you so much for being here, because I think your attempt for the first time definitely will help. Hopefully, this webinar will be of help to you. Thank you so much. I have some other questions as well. So I don't think any higher graduations and all that is necessary. I think your ability to understand a business is very, very important than anything else. And then how do you really make it important to the consumer whom you are actually targeting? So I see again Vipul Ranjan raising a hand. Do you have any question, Vipul? Or Lalitendu, do you have any question? Please do go ahead and write in the question. Why? Okay, I think you have lots of questions. Mistakes will never learn. Okay, yeah, of course. I think you're making some comments as well. Thank you so much, Srinivas Ganti, for that quick thing. Yeah, so I move on to the next slide, which is primarily on a recurring based. So one of the thing which is very important in this is recurring is an opportunity of a revenue that you realize over a period of time, and it gives you a sustainable income. So in a very simple format, if I have to say, recurring fee is basically sustainable business income, which may come in a monthly paid but for 6 months, monthly paid but for 12 months, monthly paid for 18 months, or maybe more longer duration. And let me tell you, one of our client who's been with us for about 9 years, okay, 9 years is recurring, month on month. I think I can always tell you that that's one of the most satisfying opportunity that I ever had, because see, if you that's I think it talks about the relationship. That's what talks about the kind of a value that you continue to give to the client. I think that is where it refers. So we refer to them as clients because we're going to be working with them longer duration, not that he's a customer that I give something and then that's done, the relationship is over. So the relationship, as it is longer, then you focus them as a client, that you're continuously there with them. So it's paid monthly or recurring. That's how the focus of the business would be. Again, it may start from a mid, small, and large segments. I'm more focusing on the mid and small as for a more recurring kind of an incomes, and it needs a lot of proven capacity, either in your existing work, or maybe you have done some work, or maybe the team whom you have need to have a capacity to deliver. This is very, very important to attract the market. And what wins, as I told you, is the proven ability, and also the value for money perceived. So the kind of money that I'm paying you is basically helping me to save, on the other side. I think that's what is makes a interesting one. Most of the recurring fee-based businesses, we have noticed that it take about 30 days to 180 days sometimes, because there's a lot of attempts to see that whether, okay, if I'm going to be associated with you for a long term, I think a lot more analysis, a lot more reference checks, a lot more debate will happen, with the client. So that's, I think, is very, very is important. Then you also look at the ticket sizes are typically, if you go with the small organizations, it may vary from 10,000 to 15,000 every month, or maybe if it is a mid-sized organization, it can be from 50,000 to 1.5 lakhs kind of opportunity. And large projects could be on a recurring basis, can be much more bigger in size because of the complexity that it involves. Then what is very important is, again, each of these places, it's important to look at a good pipeline, warm, cold, and strong proposal basis. Because what happens is, if you're doing a particular amount of business today, over a period of time, your costs will increase. Hence, you need to make sure that you need to constantly add the kind of recurring business so that your costs optimization can happen very well. Hence, I think having a good pipeline is very, very important. And again, I said that we are going to be selling all the time if you are a business enterprise. Yes, I think here in this case, in a recurring fees model, what happens is you know that there is an expected revenue which is coming in. Hence, you have people on roles, and also the roles where it is required a contractual or maybe a temporary workers, or maybe sometimes the partners. You may actually partner with somebody and get it delivered through somebody over a long period of time, and you may be the point of contact for the client engagement, and all that stuff. So this is how a typical structure of a recurring fee based model works. So let me just go to what kind of products that it offers here. So just before you go there, I have one question here. I would like to launch a poll. Please just take few seconds to quickly answer to this. Okay, there you go. So do you think the startup SMEs are great opportunity for business? This is very important for you to answer here, so that I know exactly what you are trying to attempt. Do you see this as an opportunity at the bottom of the pyramid? Go ahead and take the answers, and I'm just guessing. It should be only 2 levels. That's what is happening. I think 96% yes, and not sure, yes, 4%. For sure, yeah, absolutely. Not necessary that all the times it's an opportunity, until you track, until you attempt. So there you go. There's 91% yes, it's showing. So I'm going to close the poll very quickly right now, and there you go. So you have the results here. So I think it's very clear that nobody is saying no, at least. So that means that there is an opportunity even within that 9% who said not sure. So yes, let me tell you, my 17 years of life and all my team who's working today, all our sustainability is because our focus on the bottom of pyramid was extremely high, and any ups and downs in the business over the last 17 years, if I have to attribute to one thing that has helped us to be sustainable, is the startup and MSMEs, who are the ones, because they're not large in number, they're not going to give you a huge money, but they're going to give you a little money. But if your spread, as I said in the recurring business, if you have spread is good, then I think your survival is much better. And I think that's what has helped us. So this is what the poll, it also shows that yes, I think there is an opportunity. All of you are believing. So I'm very happy that we'll be happy to help you in the future, if you are really looking at expanding your scope of work into the future. So let me just move on to the one model that we worked all the time for last 17 years. We created from the day one, and then till now we still survive on this, is HR function management. So what it happens is, in a small company, you don't have the HR department, so you actually offer them a service of managing their basic HR functions for them, the operational HR. You set up an HR function for them and then manage it to run. Either you deploy your people or maybe the existing people. So you don't have to be an expert in the HR space for this, but anything that basics that you will be able to look at in managing day-to-day operations of a people-related aspects from hiring to firing, I think you will be able to do. So typically you charge based on the number of hours and also the team that you are assigning. And one more thing that you can consider is that the companies, you don't need to put them in full time. So if you have one resource, probably they can actually help in 2 3 companies which are less than 50 people organization, or maybe less than 20 people organization. You may do just 1 day in a week, or 2 days in a week, or 1 day in 15 days, or whatever, depending on the kind of a volume of interaction that you would like to see. So HR function management solution is one thing that can give you a constant revenue. It's like a recurring model. Every month, like how you're paying salaries to your employees, you will also be paid. I think we have been paid for long, such fee, by many of our clients over many years now. The other most important, which is a very recurring, is the payroll management piece, or maybe the statutory compliance management piece, which is very, very important. Most of the companies nowadays, we have noticed that earlier, this was very much prevalent in the large enterprises who used to outsource the payroll. But we see that in the last 5 to 10 years, the shift is totally from the small mid-sized enterprises. They're looking at outsourcing the payroll and the statutory compliance part, because they're not the experts and they don't have enough time to really do it, or maybe they don't want to deploy somebody for a job which takes not more than 10-15 days in a month. So why should they do? So hence, this will go is one of the very, very good opportunity where you actually earn on a recurring basis of revenue. So look at this, which is very, very important. So what you need in the payroll processing and static compliance is the ability to calculate the salaries, pay it on time, and then submit all the related documentation to the government, and also look at all the compliances where monthly, quarterly, half yearly returns, etc., which is actually has to be done on time. So we know some of the companies who just built only a technology piece of work on compliances, and they are there. And we know Fortune 100 companies are there who are doing payroll management as such in the world. So there's a huge, large opportunity. And with maybe 2-3 people, you may be able to run a business of 10,000 people payroll operations. So for each payroll, when you run, so per person, when you really charge, you look at that, that's the recurring that you're going to really get income for. So it's a very great way to do it, because you won't be in these models. What happens is people may not be able to cut you short very fast, because there's a lot of dependency on you. Whereas in the one-time opportunities, there's no dependency. If this work happens, it's okay. Otherwise, just get out, and then we are on our own. But in the recurring model, if you see the HR function management, you are inside. You are actually being part of their core business, and then incidentally doing HR. Then if you see payroll management, it needs an inputs taken, processed, and submitted, and then it's also the statutory compliance. There is a continuity. There must be an understanding of and then error free is very important. And once if somebody gets used to, then I think it becomes very, very easy for you as an entrepreneur. But definitely it's a complex. It still remains as a complex to the business. The other model, which is purely recurring fees model, is also that where you employ people on behalf of the client. So that means that on a regular basis you have the revenues coming in, which also helps you to run on a fixed fee model, or maybe as long as the person is dependent on. So I think a lot of times you say the deployment model, where you kind of temp staffing is one word that they use. And we have a temp staffing companies which are largest employers in the country. So that's another additional piece of information that may be important. But here in this case, please note that the positive negative is that positive is that it's a recurring revenue that comes in. But the negative is also that if there is anything that happens in terms of a compliance with the people, then you are at the receiving end. So there is a very high risk that runs, as against just running a payroll. Your risk is not there, but you're running payroll on the company's licenses. on a manpower outsourcing, etc., you also own the employees, and we noticed that some of these large enterprises who run temp staffing business in the country have a huge labor department, who actually takes care of a labor complaints, cases, etc., etc. So there is a plus and minuses, but at the same time, there is a continuity of a business that you can predict. Because please notice that every business must have a continuity and a vision for themselves, so that otherwise it will be very difficult. If you don't see what next month revenues is going to be, then I think you will be in a real deep trouble. And then many a times, by not balancing the one time versus recurring, I think that is where most of the people attempt for entrepreneurship in HR, but again they fail. But some of them, when you go back and check any one of them who've been there for more than, let's say, 10 years, you will probably find that they found their recurring income, which is coming in as such. So one other thing in the recruitment, people are nowadays doing is a RPO kind of a model, where you charge a fixed fee for actually setting up a recruitment department for you to run it, and then based on the success that you actually gain. So that's another way of looking at recurring kind of a business. And the last one which I mentioned, it's not just the limited. I'm just only within the time frame. I'm trying to kind of cover some of the points. Retained consultant. I think this is one of the very important aspect here. Is that you may be an expert instead of being a consultant. Consultant doing a project-based consulting work, but you can say that, okay, I will actually be there with you. Let's say if you are offering your own services, you can say that, okay, I'm an expert in compliance, I'm an expert in HR, I'm an expert in a certain area. So you can attach it with the company as an advisor, or maybe with a fixed fee, certain number of hours that you can actually spend time, so that you are assured of a recurring income that is going to come with that. So that's why I coined it as a retained consultant. So you are mostly the individual that you would like to offer these services. So that's about the recurring, and there are various combination of models that you can use. Like see, when you are an entrepreneur, you cannot look at these as one segments. Like I kind of put them into buckets. You should not be looking at, okay, this bucket, this bucket, this bucket. No way. Maybe when you are actually going and talking to our customers, you may combine some of these and create a model. So product design can be like, there could be some 20 products can come out of what I shared in these four segments of business here. So just think about it. What I think is very, very important. So there's one. I'm just launching one poll before I grab some coffee in the meantime for you. Let's go. Do you think the HR market be such huge? What is your opinion about it? I see as of now 100%. So I see a huge number, of course, there. Definitely, of course, we believe quite huge. As long as you jump into and see, then probably you'll know the depth. Right now, I think 90%, 80% of the people who are now trying to really look at from outside, maybe your ability to see through to these models may be less. Hence you will find that may not be huge as a market. Okay, there you go. I think I'm just close the poll, and here is the result. Okay, 90%, is definitely feels that there is a huge market opportunity. And let me tell you, one very important thing is the optimism, which will never die for any entrepreneur. So just make sure that you be on that optimist side all the time, irrespective of any hits that you take in life. But I think the optimism is one probably characteristic of a person, which defines, as I said earlier, perseverance. Okay, so you always feel that, yes, I think there is a huge market, and definitely, and it is. If you see today, there is a huge, massive, unaddressed market. If you have ever heard of something called a white space, HR market in India is a white space as on today. You look at the kind of size that we're talking about, enterprises which are there in India, and then how they're not being addressed so far. So I think that's an opportunity. Thank you for taking that poll quickly, and let me just move on very quickly. The most important thing, I think I've been waiting for this particular slide to go on, because I think the first two has certain understanding everywhere, but I think what I'm going to talk about is going to be very important from the point of view of your ability, how you can use it. So here, okay, I look at this as a subscription model. I think most of you are must have been subscribed to some of the other models right now, right? You go to Netflix, or you go to Amazon, or you go to Amazon Prime, or whatever it is. These are all nothing but subscription models. So how do we bring in subscription model into HR is going to be the key. I think, again, when I look at the business of HR as a pyramid, I would say subscription model bottom of the pyramid. That's where the large opportunity. And also it correlates with the kind of a size and the number of organizations that are existing in the country. Okay, so these are very small revenues, but paid in advance. I mean, you must be happy, right? When you're paid in advance, you are really happy. But you provide a very standardized kind of a products, which you actually offer to the market. You provide a very standard, okay, this is what it is, just take it. It's like Facebook, or it's like uh, you know uh, LinkedIn or whatever. It's a standardized model. But when you actually also want a little additional modules, you only pay for the entire month or entire year in advance. I think that's how an HR business also is evolving over a period of time. I think there are a lot of opportunities that you can really focus to get into. So this is a standardized offering without customization. That means that you understand the market, you look at the segment exactly, and then offer exactly, and then track and work with only such organizations. That's it. You will not deviate much unless you kind of change your model and then go back into another segment of the market. So typically the best markets will be mid and small segments of market that you can really focus on. Let me just, before go on to this, I would like to ask a question, because this is one thing very important, how I'm going to translate the discussion and opportunity right now. So I'm going to just launch a poll, just take a very quickly, and I hope all 50 of us will be able to take this quickly, so that based on the results my conversation will continue. There you go. Your objective of entrepreneurship is. I see some very interesting. I mean, it's very close to my heart. I think that is what is happening on the results that I can see. You know what, I really would like to see that. And then definitely very ambitious it looks. Very, very, very ambitiously, it looks. And let me just, for all of you to vote, there are 60% of people voted already. So I'll wait for those 40, and I would love to have all of them vote, so that we know the real good sense of the team today, who's really taking this progress forward. So there are about 67% who already voted. 70% already voted. That, okay, just make sure that some of you just quickly take a little more time to put in your vote, please, because this is very, very important. And I think I'm very excited with the kind of results that it's coming up, um, which defines that we are really interested to create employment in the country. I mean, I look at it that way. Creating employment. You're not here to just to start your own, but you are actually wanting to create an enterprise. So there are already 80% of the votes. I'm just waiting for the last few who could do it, very quickly. Those who are on the webinar today. There you go. I think 80% is good enough to close the poll. I'm going to close it right now, and see how the results that you can see. Okay, there you go. There's 16% of people who said they want to work independently proprietor. So now you know when you are an independent entity, independent proprietor as a own, and you don't want to kind of build a team and all, you know what kind of opportunities to be picked up. I will touch upon that in the last, maybe probably you can use that. And I'm very, very happy to see that 70% of them really said that building a team and organization. So I'm guessing that each one of you are really, really focused on creating an enterprise, not just creating an enterprise, but also creating employment. Look at the beauty of this. You're not just looking at to just start off, start earning for yourself and helping some other organization, but you're also creating an organization. And the most important, the best thing that I like of people who said you want to build a public limited organization. I think I purposefully put it because uh, a public limited is one of the biggest dream for any entrepreneur. And then, as I said, even the startups today can be public listed. So hence, I think the 16% who voted, hats off to you. And people who are building teams, always to consider value creation for your equity. Okay, what does it mean? That your profit may be X amount of money, but your value of the organization is always multiples of your profit. Hence, where do you prove it? Either somebody buys your stake and invest into your organization, hence you know the value, or you go to the public and say, you know how much is the brand value of this organization, market capitalization. That is how you're going to say really. So, thank you so much for the results. I'm damn happy to see more than 80% really saying that they want to build an organization, they want to take it to the public. And I'm sure it's an aspiration today for every business owner to be a listed entity. But do you know how many that are there in the country, in our country? They're not, just about 3,000, handful of them. And not everything is transacted. But just give you a quick idea, there are about 600 small mid-sized enterprises being listed on BSE and NSE as on today. 600 in the last 4 years of starting of this platform. There are 600 organizations, and I think the pace is growing very fast. So probably by the year next year, maybe it may touch 1,000 companies, because the way that the small companies are coming and listing themselves, creating value for themselves, creating value for their organizations, creating a wealth around the business ecosystem. Thank you so much. So that gives me a good idea about what you are aiming towards, and where you are heading towards as such. Okay. Just before I wanted to actually look at this is the one that you need to really look at. What wins in the space of in a subscription economy? Are you giving more value for the money that you're paying? I think that is how it is viewed at any point of time. So that's going to really create a value. So when I say what is going to uh, what is going to create an opportunity um, is if I'm paying you 1 rupee, are you giving me 5 rupees? I think that's very important in a subscription economy. Subscription models are that, okay, I give you an X amount of money, but I think you're actually saving me, 5 times or 3 times, 4 times of the money. I think that is where that you need to really, focus on. So there's one question by Lieutenant Colonel Rajiv Sinha. How can I convert my HR business from transactional to transitional? That is to say, how can I ensure that I remain plugged in with an organization for a long term? Lieutenant Colonel, I think the idea is, you need to start looking at that. If there is a transaction thing piece that is happening, probably can you go back, with a model, of a subscription or model of a recurring. It's like, suppose if you are doing an recruiting business, just for example, I'm just taking, just for the sake of this thing, I don't know if it is very relevant to you, but if you are doing a recruitment business over, let's say, 1 year, based on the requirements that are coming up by an organization. So what you can look at is, see, in this particular year, those many number of positions that you have filled, and this much is the fee that probably you would have charged, or maybe some other consultant would have charged. What is the kind of a revenue that the consultant would have made it. So what you can do is, the next time when you go, probably you can say, hey, can we do one thing? You spent, let's say, 1 lakh of rupees, for so many number of positions last year. Okay, can I do one thing? You make me the exclusive partner with you. Okay, you pay me 10,000 rupees today, but another 40-50,000 rupees based on certain number of positions that we close. Or you may say that, okay, I'll charge you every half yearly, I'll charge you 30,000 rupees, right? And then any number of positions that you get, I will fill it with you. But let's have a contract, which can be, long term. So hope that helps, Lieutenant Colonel Rajiv Sinha. I mean, I'm only just taking out of quickly, what I can think of. But if you have a very specific input, probably we can always debate it. But you can always come back, and we can also talk about a very specific questions later on. We are going to build a relationship with this webinar. We are not going to be through as a transactional for this webinar. Thank you so much. So I'm actually moving to the subscription, which is the most favorite that I said. And here you need to really give more money, value for money than what you actually have taken. So hence, I think it becomes very important for you to look at how do you create a product. So it has to be very creative, innovative, and easy to use. People don't have to have a confusion in offering. In this offering, they should not have a confusion that, okay, whether you do this or do this or do this or do this. You have to be very, very clear, and the boundary has to be very, very clearly defined. I think that is very important in a subscription model of HR business that we really look at. So the sales cycle typically can be from 1 day to a 60-day, but 60 days is actually too far. I don't think 60 day will ever be possible, because if you are if you are really not able to convince them with the ease of the product, then subscription will not happen. It has to be very simple and should be addressing to what their ability is, very, very quickly. Okay. Ashutosh ji, I think what you actually said, you may not, I think it also defines. See, as an entrepreneur, you need to really go and ask. Many a times we assume that they will not take it. I think we fundamentally believe that, okay, whenever we want to say that this is a transactional, but you are creating a value for them, right? You're creating, let's say, 40% of the value that you're creating by actually paying little in advance. If you see the interest rate that he earns on that is actually much lower, but here he is actually going to earn more, money over a period of time. And also it tells you about how confident that you are presenting. I think that's very, very important. Please understand that nothing is impossible. I mean, I learned it, and I kind of feel that you attempt it. If one customer may not be willing to do it, but the next one will do it, the third one will do it, and it purely depends on the kind of an relationship that you hold. Okay, so not many companies, doesn't matter, because out of, let's say, 10 companies that you have, if 10 companies you go and talk to them, 1 or 2 if they take, you are assured for 2, right? The 20% you are actually assured of your business, which is in advance, and that's how I look at it when I look at the subscription kind of a model. Hope that answers, Ashutosh. Okay, so subscription. I'm just going to the subscription model as it is, and then these are very typical small sizes. You may wonder here that when I actually put it as kind of in excess of 12,000 rupees per annum, for a small company, is possible. But that 12,000 is actually paid in advance is good enough. But you need to able to sustain this model, and then maybe some of the mixed size could be from 15,000 per month onwards. So that means 1.8 lakhs per annum, which may be spread across through an advance payment, which is possible. So let me just go and little see, subscription model requires an aggressive pipeline, because these are the small ticket size. You need to have more number of things to be developed. So if you don't have only one, and then you want to survive on that, you will rather die faster than what you think. So hence there has to be a very aggressive push Like in a normal business sense, if I can tell you that how a retail business, look at just from a retail point of view of a business. For a retail, you need to be very aggressive, very pushy, very actually, and maybe a standardized, but you need to go to a larger pool of population very, very quickly and faster. I think that's going to be very critical in a subscription kind of a business model. And of course, here you can use all. You don't have to have a very standard a team, large team to deliver everything, but you can always have partners who can deliver within the framework of what you have designed as a product. So I can tell you that subscription is a model where you completely productize your HR offering to the client. Completely productize your HR offering to the client. I'm repeating this word because you should not leave anything for chance for them to be able to. I will show you one of the example of what it is, at the end, when I kind of, the next slide, I'm going to show you that one of the offering that we kind of created. Probably you can take a lead from there and do it. Or maybe, I mean, all our partners, franchise partners also really understands these and then going ahead and delivering these services. So probably this will be very good input for you. Let me just look at, this is what it is. So HR cloud is definitely, you all must have heard of HR cloud, right? Cloud is the thing today. So that means that you're using technology to leverage your subscription business model, right? And here, one of the things that you can do is, if you have a smaller companies and if you identify any HR technology product, you could actually subscribe. You can actually give that as a subscription to your clients. What you can say is that, because you don't want to invest in a cloud application which can automate the HR function. Say in the recurring business, when I said that you will go and operationally involve yourself and deliver those services. But here in this case, you are actually enabling that particular HR function, whether it's a proper HR guy is there or not, but you are still enabling this, because you need to have one-time setup, and it just goes on like a very regular routine. Because so you can identify the routines which can be plugged into one offering. This HR cloud could be that, okay, you offer only one particular product of onboarding, or maybe a particular product of onboarding to exit. You can look at multiple models, and then never try to attempt to create your own, because unless you are like flushed with funds and all that, there's no point. Today, there are so many people who are investing. There are so many investors who are putting into technology, but all of them don't have an opportunity to reach out to a larger markets. They need resellers. They need people who are experts in this area who deliver. Tell me, in today's world, there are there are many companies in technology who are building HR cloud. They're all technology companies. They're not HR companies. Just look at the opportunity that you have. If somebody has built a product, understand what it is, use it, because I'm sure there are some of the companies maybe also offer you, in case if you want some design that you also want to offer, there's something called a white labeling. So what they do is they have their own engine which will feature as though your company. So you can actually put it on and then put it on a white label, and you start marketing as though it is your product. You're not spending on your development, you are not spending on your hosting, you're not spending on anything which is required to build that entire ecosystem, but you're only saying that the face, you are putting your face, and then you are actually selling it as. But for that, you need to have a stronger tie-up with the vendor, and also a bit of investment to make sure that they create an instance for you, so that you offer that as a product. So it's like very simple, in a simple format. If you see, you must have seen the model. Small example is, you all must have seen an RTC buses. RTC buses have online mechanism, right? RTC, you always say that, okay, Madhya Pradesh RTC, Andhra Pradesh RTC, Delhi RTC, and go online our website, and then you subscribe. So typically these are all the white labeled products. There is some engine called Red Bus who actually created this kind of a cloud for actually enabling bus ticketing system, and then the engine runs behind, but the front ending looks like it's for the the company has actually created that and running it. So I think that's That's what is I'm talking about when you say white label. If you're not white label, you will always market as a reseller for them. So it could be that your Tally partners, what are they doing? They're actually having one technology piece which has been invested by Tally, and then they're actually implementing. They're the implementing partner. Any customization they do, and because this business is a recurring business, why do you think these people are surviving? Because you have an opportunity to earn every year after year. And also, one thing that I can tell you, why you should invest today. You may get a little money today, but tomorrow this is going to be a biggest opportunity, because the artificial intelligence and the understanding of the system, the way that the user is using, is increasing. Hence, there is a bigger opportunity for you to be able to track what is happening with them and also provide more and more services. So, Anup Alagarajan, hope I think I answered with a question on the white label that you have actually asked. Uh, Thank you so much. Then I would like to move to the next one. If you are a specialized HR person, and then maybe you could actually adopt a lot of tools or the platforms that are available across the globe. If you see many of the products that are there in the US related to marketing, related to technology, uh, which is like a tools like employee satisfaction survey, tools like psychometric tools, all these. One of the things that you can do is, if you have that orientation towards that, you could take up any product anywhere from the globe, and you can be a reseller. And basically, you're going to give a value addition of a touch and feel, because not all the technology companies or the companies who build these, they all look for partners who actually can provide this tool to the client. So maybe here you can combine with this. Let me just look at this. When you look at the consulting engagement that you're doing, you are actually attaching something like this. You are actually either two ways to look at. Okay, you offer an employee engagement survey tool to them, and based on the outcome, you're going to do a consulting. So there is always an interlink, and there is always a value addition that you can actually do. But again, of course, there is no opportunity left. If you really wanted to build your own tech tools, you are most welcome. There is actually availability. There's another model which I'm actually wanting to really also to look at you is co-build or co-found. So this is something, if you are a HR expert, so probably what you can do is you can actually be attached with any company who's building some technology related to human resources. So probably you can be the best guy to be part of it, and you can be a co-founder. So nowadays, there is a technology guy who has excellent technology opportunity that he can do it. But if your functional knowledge, if your functional expertise is there, probably you can join him and then go ahead and kind of help him to build those tools. It could be a psychometric instrument tools, or any small piece of work. So it is something like this. There's somebody who built just the reference check model, somebody who built just a screening of resumes. You will wonder that the kind of technology investment that's happening in the recruiting space, because that puzzle, I think, something that people have not mastered even so far. Hence, billions of dollars are invested by the investors in building the cloud applications right now on solving the hiring problems. Yeah, you must have seen. I mean, if you go and just Google in terms of the investments in the recruiting space, I think in the entire HR space, the maximum amount of investments, billions of dollars, are put in solving recruitment problems. Then comes the specific areas of problems in terms of identify employee engagement, employee involvement, etc., etc., etc. So these are the something that you can do, or maybe you can just simply be an reseller for an HR tech. So why do you have to really reinvent a wheel? So that could be another opportunity that you may look at. The other one which I'm just coming to, which also can include a technology but also include a service. You can create a lot more models based on my inputs today. Is a startup solutions. So what you can do is that if it is a smaller company, you go and provide an HR solution for which he subscribes to, where you can actually provide a certain number of actions to them on a regular basis. Let me just tell you, very simple, could be that Okay, you go and set up the employment letter, offer letter, appointment letter, basic infrastructure of policies, which is like work norms, leave policy, basic norms. Because startups, small, mid-size, understand you don't need documentation. You know, need documentation like how a large company holds. You need to have something called the guidelines. So if you're able to create guidelines, for a smaller enterprise, I think that should be more than enough. And also, running the day-to-day operations could be based on a subscription model. Okay. Hence, this is a big opportunity. Instead of actually confusing you because of a short of time that we need to close in next 5 minutes, I would like to show you how one product which is just built by us. Here it is. So you see a startup light. Okay, maybe I can share it with you once this thing is over. So this is like a service name is called a startup light. So that means it is applicable for people with 25 number of people, up to 25 number of people. The billing rate will be 8,000 per month, up to 25 people. From 25 to 30 people, that means when the new employees are increasing, per month you charge additionally 1,000 rupees per person. And beyond 30, maybe every 5 employees, maybe you do a units you will reduce because your base is going to be the same. And what do you provide in this? Let's look at. I think it may not be working for companies which are more than 50 employees. So here in this case, you see what is that you do. Here you do one-time setup of basic systems. Then okay, in this case we have put in app uses because that's our cloud application that we are putting in, where it does a payroll structure, leave management, and some of the advanced management in terms of recruitment module will be enabled. So that means you are giving a technology bit of piece for day-to-day running. Then you're also processing on a month-on-month basis. You're also processing the payments, payroll, and you're also doing some kind of a compliance for these people. In our portal, we also have an access to posting on now Monster, from the existing HRIS. So that also could be another opportunity. This is more for us, and also you are available for an advisory on the phone and online inquiries. We don't go in person. Here in every one of these cases, we never promise anything that we go in person, except for the ones initial setup. May probably we'll spend some time going there physically, but rest everything will happen from the. If somebody is joining, you do a joining formalities online. If somebody has to be issued an appointment letter, you issue an appointment letter online. Everything gets done online. So this is one model where I wanted to really talk to you about. There are a lot of such opportunity. We have three levels of model in this, based on the more and more services that we do. So hope this example helps you to understand what does it mean to be able to see how a subscription model can be done. Okay, so this is how you can actually look at it, because initially it will be very difficult to build a subscription-based model. The first year you can look at, focus on one-time kind of a product and a bit of a recurring kind of a model. The second year, I think you get a maturity of understanding the client and etc. So maybe you can look at one time, reduce the one time, and then make it more recurring and a subscription. I think by third year, if you're 80-85% of the money which comes from subscription and recurring, you will be able to sustain better. And the target clients that I'm talking about on the right hand side, that you see that the model which I mentioned here is the small could be more subscription based, mid could be subscription come recurring, and large could be more on terms of one time kind of a solution. So probably this may be of great help to you. Just few words of this thing. I would like to actually run one poll before I just get on to this. Just answer to this poll quickly. I just wanted to kind of guess a model in terms of how soon that one wants to really start off. So that'll give me some indication of what I'm going to talk about in the next one slide. I'll take another 5 minutes to close this webinar. I hope it is useful so far. Okay, so we have Very good, very good. We have, I think most of them are looking at to start immediately, or maybe in the next 3 to 6 months, or maybe a little later than. That's very interesting. So yeah, we have most of the answers that 70% are after 3 to 6 months. So that means that you're trying to plan. I think it's a very important aspect of the slide that I'm going to talk about if it is 70%, but 23% who actually wanted to start as quickly as possible. So I'm going to close the poll. Uh, Thank you so much. So I'll just share the results. Here we go. So immediately 23%, after 3 to 6 months is 69%, and already running what you're doing, I think is nothing like it. Expand the scope. Hopefully these will help, and please do reach us in case if you need any help. If you're already in the business, then probably we can be of help immediately. And if somebody wants to start immediately, also we could be of help. And for people who are actually going to start in 3 to 6 months later, this slide is important for you. So if you want to really start while you're on the job, you could do something like this in the next few months, is to start saving 30% of your earning. Just reduce your costs, start making some 30% of your earning. You keep it for actually investing into the startups. So which is very, very important for us to see how you can oh, sorry, I'm sorry, yeah. You can invest into a startup, or you can be an advisor to a startup with little more investment. Don't ever go and say that I will advise you, for which you give me an equity. Nobody is going to believe. Unless you have a skin in the game, it is very important. You put half as your investment, which is from your forced savings, and half, as through the advisory, going there, spending, weekend time, or helping them on the call, on the phone. Because most of the startups, let me tell you, they need lot of advisory, lot of support, lot of maturity, people like you who have lots of experience. I think, let me tell you, this is the biggest opportunity that is existing in the country. And maybe help slowly develop some kind of a market for them and all. If you're already in HR, I can tell you 80% of the startups today are depending on HR people. So everybody wants a consumer like your employee. So hence, I think if you are really investing and advising somebody, probably you can use your network while you are in the position. You have more hold, so you can actually help business network. And at an appropriate time, probably you can take a call to join, to get out, and then you can work with the invested startups. This is something which I would like to really ask you to do it. So finally, what you can do is build your own, or you collaborate with others. You have 2 3 people coming together, or maybe working with other companies, or maybe without reinventing, just resell and add your value to it. Value added reselling, that I would call, that you can do. Or maybe an existing model that you can adopt. There's a lot of franchise models that are existing. So go to the Franchise India model, check which are the ones, so that you don't have to reinvent your wheel, but at the same time you start where somebody else would have actually built a product model, and which is already sustainable in the market. So probably that may be an, or participate with other business owners who are already existing, or startups which I mentioned. So you could actually do it. So get set go, and that's what I would say. And this is some information about Husys that you can use, which would be of help to you. I think this has been a very useful session for you, and please do reach us for any questions that you have, which we will be able to answer. Just see, I think the height results have been put it. Okay, so thank you so much for each one of you being here. And one more poll before you go, just quick, and then click this, and then move out of the webinar. But please be in touch. We'll be happy to help you in any manner that you would like us to help you in the future. Our objective is to help more and more HRpreneurs to come in, because the market size is so big that in our lifetime we will not be able to address it, and we need more people like you, who will be able to take it up. So there you go. I think just vote and then close it. That's okay. I'm very happy to see that somebody is really talking about start networking to begin. Thank you so much. I think that's what is going to give you a $1 million advantage when you when you really get onto the business. I'm very happy that people are really talking about networking as one of the very key, and starting soon your own venture, preparing your own venture, taking inputs from people. Yeah, you'll see later, because I think, see, it depends on the kind of a risk taking ability that you have. So don't worry. Everything is possible in this world, but only one thing I would like to say: there is no better time than today. So make sure that you actually remember this all the time. Thank you very much. We will connect with you back soon, and wish you all the best to all of you, and thank you so much for being part of this.